You look too broke for this place.
I own this place.
I should have known better than to judge someone by their appearance. But when you work the front desk at Apex, the most exclusive private club in the city, you develop a sixth sense about who belongs and who doesn't. After 2 years of checking membership cards and turning away wannabes who thought money alone could buy them entry, I'd become an expert at spotting the difference between old money and new, between power and pretense. That's why when he walked through those marble-floored doors, on a rain-soaked Tuesday night, I was already preparing my polite rejection. He wore dark jeans that had seen better days, a black hoodie beneath a leather jacket that looked expensive once but was now worn at the elbows. His hair was damp from the rain, falling across his forehead in dark waves. He hadn't shaved in days, and there was something rough about him, something that screamed wrong place, wrong time, wrong tax bracket. Apex didn't do walk-ins. Every member was vetted, approved, and paid annual dues that could cover a year's rent in most neighborhoods. The waiting list was 2 years long. Billionaires, politicians, entertainment moguls, old family money. These were our clientele, not guys who looked like they'd just walked off a construction site. I straightened behind the black granite desk, my hand already hovering near the discreet security button. "Good evening. Do you have a membership card?" He approached slowly, water dripping from his jacket onto the pristine floor. His eyes met mine, and something in my chest tightened. They were dark, almost black, and they looked at me with an intensity that made me want to step back. But I held my ground. "I need to speak with Thomas," he said. His voice was low, rough like gravel, with an edge that suggested he wasn't used to being questioned. Thomas was the club manager, and he didn't meet with non-members. Mr. Richardson only meets with members by appointment. If you'd like to apply for membership, I don't need an appointment. He placed his hands on the desk, and I noticed his knuckles were scarred. "Tell him Silas is here. Just Silas. No last name. Like he was a celebrity or something." I'd heard every line, every attempt to sound important. This guy was good. I'd give him that. The confidence was almost convincing. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Apex is a private club, and without a membership—" "How much?" he interrupted. "Excuse me? How much do you think I can't afford?" He pulled out a wallet from his back pocket, and I caught a glimpse of what looked like crumpled bills. My suspicions confirmed. What's the cover charge for guys who look broke? The sarcasm in his voice should have warned me, but I was tired. It had been a long shift, and I'd already dealt with 3 trust fund kids trying to use their parents' memberships. I was done with games. "Sir, there is no cover charge because this isn't that kind of establishment. Apex requires a membership that costs $50,000 annually, plus a one-time initiation fee of $200,000. There's also a 2-year waiting list after your application is approved by our board." I softened my voice, trying to sound sympathetic rather than condescending. "I'm sure there are other venues in the city that would be more accessible." The moment the words left my mouth, I knew I'd made a mistake. The temperature in the lobby seemed to drop 10 degrees. Behind me, I heard Marcus, our head of security, suck. In a sharp breath, the 2 security guards flanking the entrance had gone completely still. The man, Silas, didn't move. He just stared at me with those dark eyes. And slowly, very slowly, he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator who'd just spotted something interesting. "More accessible," he repeated softly. "That's one way to put it." "I didn't mean—" I started, but he held up a hand. "No, please. Continue. Tell me more about what I can and can't afford." He leaned forward slightly, and I caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with rain and something darker, something dangerous. "I'm fascinated by your assessment." My mouth had gone dry. Something was very wrong. Marcus still hadn't moved, hadn't come to escort this man out like he should have. The entire lobby had fallen silent. "I apologize if I offended you," I said carefully. "But our policies are strict. Without a membership, Harper—" Thomas Richardson's voice cut through the tension like a knife. I turned to see him hurrying across the lobby, his usually composed face pale with something that looked like panic. "Step away from the desk. Now." I blinked. "Thomas, I was just explaining—" "Ms. Reese." His use of my last name sent ice down my spine. Thomas never used last names with staff. "Step away." I moved aside, confused and increasingly alarmed. Thomas positioned himself behind the desk, and when he looked at the man in the hoodie, he actually bowed his head slightly. "Mr. Kane, I apologize for the confusion. No one informed me you'd be visiting tonight. Kane. Silas Kane. Oh God." The name hit me like a physical blow. Everyone in the city knew that name, even if they'd never seen the face that went with it. Silas Kane didn't just have membership at Apex. According to the rumors whispered in back rooms and late-night conversations, Silas Kane owned Apex. He owned half the real estate in the downtown core. He owned the police commissioner, 3 judges, and more. City councilors than anyone cared to count. Silas Kane was the invisible king of the city's underworld, the man who controlled everything from high-end gambling operations to the flow of goods through the harbor. He was power incarnate, ruthless, and untouchable. And I'd just told him he looked too broke to afford the cover charge at his own club. "It's fine, Thomas." Silas hadn't taken his eyes off me. Ms. Reese was just doing her job. Very thoroughly, I might add. That dangerous smile widened. "I appreciate dedication to protocol." "Of course, sir. Is there anything you need?" "My usual table. And send a bottle of the Macallan 25 to my office." He paused. "Actually, make it 2 glasses." My stomach dropped. "Right away, sir." Thomas shot me a look that promised we'd be having a very long conversation later. "Ms. Reese will show you up." "No." The word came out before I could stop it. Both men looked at me. "I mean, I'm sure Mr. Kane knows the way. I should stay at the desk. The desk will be fine for 5 minutes." Thomas's tone left no room for argument. "Show Mr. Kane to his office." Silas pushed away from the desk, waiting. There was no way out of this. I stepped around the granite counter on shaking legs, very aware that I was probably about to be fired. Or worse. We walked through the main floor of Apex in silence. The club was done in dark woods and deep leather, with amber lighting that cast everything in gold and shadow. Members lounged in private booths, conducting business deals worth millions over aged whiskey and Cuban cigars. A jazz quartet played softly in the corner. Normally, I loved this space. Tonight, it felt like a beautiful cage. Silas moved through the crowd without seeming to try. And yet people parted for him. They looked up, recognized him, and their conversations faltered. Some nodded respectfully. Others simply watched him pass with fear in their eyes. I led him to the private elevator at the back, the one that only went to the top floor. My hands trembled as I pressed the button. "You're scared," he observed as the doors slid closed, sealing us in together. "I'm concerned about my employment status," I corrected, trying to keep my voice steady. "That's not the same thing as being scared. Isn't it? When the man you just insulted owns your workplace?" The elevator began to rise, my stomach dropping with each floor. "I'm pretty sure that qualifies as a reasonable fear response." He laughed. Actually laughed. It was a low, rough sound that did strange things to my pulse. "You really didn't know who I was." "I really didn't. Everyone knows who I am." "Not everyone." I risked a glance at him. He'd pushed the hood back and I could see him properly now. Sharp jaw, strong features, a thin scar cutting through his left eyebrow. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-30s, and handsome in a way that was almost unfair, the kind of handsome that came with danger warnings. I try not to pay attention to rumors. "Smart woman." The elevator dinged, and the doors opened onto a private hallway. But sometimes rumors are just the truth that people are afraid to say out loud. His office took up the entire top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the glittering city below, rain streaking down the glass like tears. The space was minimalist but expensive. Black leather furniture, a desk that probably cost more than my car, artwork that I recognized from auction catalogs. A bottle of Macallan and 2 crystal glasses were already waiting on the desk. Thomas must have called ahead. Silas shrugged off his jacket, revealing a simple black t-shirt that fit him in a way that made me look away quickly. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, then held one out to me. I don't drink on the job. You're not working right now. You're having a conversation with your boss. He pressed the glass into my hand. Drink. You look like you need it. He wasn't wrong. I took a small sip, and the whiskey burned its way down my throat, smooth and expensive and exactly what I needed. Am I fired? Why would I fire you? Because I was rude to you. Because I judged you. Because I basically called you poor to your face. He moved to the window, glass in hand, looking out at his city. You were doing your job. Apex has standards for a reason. If you'd just let me walk in without checking, without questioning, I'd have fired you for being careless. He turned back to face me. But you stood your ground. Even when you thought I couldn't afford to be here, you were professional, firm. That takes spine. So I'm not fired? No. He took a sip of his drink, those dark eyes fixed on me over the rim of the glass. But I am curious about something. What? Why you're working the front desk at Apex when you have a degree in art history from Columbia? The blood drained from my face. How do you? I know everything about everyone who works for me, Harper. You graduated top of your class 4 years ago. Moved here hoping to work at one of the museums. When that didn't pan out, you took a job at a gallery in Tribeca. Then the gallery closed, and you've been bouncing between part-time positions ever since. He set his glass down. You're smart, educated, and clearly wasted checking membership cards. The fact that he knew all of this should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something else, something warm and dangerous spreading through my chest. The art world isn't exactly hiring right now, I said quietly. And Apex pays better than any gallery position I could get. What if I offered you something better? Like what? I have investments, legitimate businesses that need someone with an eye for aesthetics, marketing, acquisition consulting, event curation. He moved closer, and I held my ground even though everything in me screamed to step back. I could use someone like you, someone like me, someone who isn't afraid to tell me the truth, even when they think I can't afford it. That smile again, the dangerous one. That's rare in my world, Harper. People spend so much time trying to tell me what they think I want to hear. You just told me what you actually thought. And that's valuable to you? More than you know. He was close enough now that I could feel the heat radiating from him. So what do you say? Interested in a new position? I should have said no. Everything about this situation screamed danger. Silas Kane wasn't just my boss. He was one of the most dangerous men in the city. Working for him meant stepping into a world I didn't understand, a world where the wrong move could cost more than just my job. But there was something in his eyes, something that called to a part of me I'd buried under years of playing it safe, of taking the practical path, of always choosing security over risk. What would the job entail exactly? Come to my main office tomorrow, 9 a.m., corner of 5th and Madison, top floor. He pulled a business card from his pocket and pressed it into my hand. His fingers brushed mine, and electricity shot up my arm. We'll discuss details then. I looked down at the card. Heavy black stock with silver lettering. Just his name and a phone number. Nothing else. And if I say no, then you go back to the front desk, and we pretend this conversation never happened. He stepped back, giving me space to breathe. But I don't think you're going to say no, Harper. Why not? Because you're tired of playing it safe. Because you moved to this city to chase something bigger than a desk job. Because when you looked at me tonight, even before you knew who I was, you felt it. His voice dropped lower. That pull, that recognition, like calling to like. My breath caught. He was right, and that terrified me more than anything else. I should get back to my desk, I whispered. You should. But neither of us moved. We stood there in his office, 30 stories above the city, rain drumming against the windows, and something passed between us, something electric and inevitable and completely insane. Finally, I forced myself to step toward the elevator. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. I'll be waiting. The doors closed between us, and I sagged against the elevator wall, my heart hammering. What had I just agreed to? When I returned to the lobby, Thomas was waiting. He pulled me aside immediately, his expression grim. Do you have any idea who that was? I do now. Silas Kane doesn't come here often. When he does, everything stops. He owns this place, Harper. He owns half the city. I know. Then you understand how badly you could have... He stopped, studying my face. What did he say to you? He offered me a job. Thomas blinked. What? A job. At his main office. He wants me to come in tomorrow to discuss it. For a long moment, Thomas just stared at me. Then he let out a long breath. Jesus, Harper. Do you have any idea what you're getting into? No, I admitted. But I'm going to find out. He gripped my shoulder, his expression serious. Be careful. Silas Kane is not a man you want to cross. He's not like the members who come through here. He's different. Dangerous. I know. Do you? Thomas looked toward the elevator, toward the top floor where Silas still waited. People who get close to him don't lead normal lives. They get pulled into his world, and once you're in, there's no easy way out. Then maybe I won't look for a way out. The words surprised. Both of us. Thomas released my shoulder, shaking his head. Just be careful, please. I went home that night to my tiny apartment in a building that had seen better decades. The pipes rattled, the heat was inconsistent, and my neighbors were loud at all hours. But it was mine, paid for with my own money, and it represented something important. Independence, safety, control. As I lay in bed, unable to sleep, I kept thinking about Silas Kane, about the way he'd looked at me, like he could see straight through all my carefully constructed walls, about the job offer that could change everything or destroy me completely, about the fact that even knowing the danger, even understanding that he was a predator and I was walking straight into his territory, I was going to show up at his office tomorrow. Because Thomas was right about one thing. I was tired of playing it safe. I'd spent 4 years building a careful, controlled life that was slowly suffocating me. Maybe it was time to choose danger instead. Maybe it was time to see what happened when you stopped running from the darkness and walked straight into it instead. I didn't sleep that night. And when my alarm went off at 7 a.m., I was already awake, standing in front of my closet, trying to decide what you wear when you're about to sell your soul to the devil. The building on 5th and Madison was all steel and glass, 60 stories of wealth and power reaching toward the sky. The lobby alone was more impressive than most. Museums I'd visited, marble floors, original artwork, a waterfall feature that ran up 3 stories. I gave my name to the security desk, and the guard's expression shifted immediately. He picked up a phone, spoke quietly, then gestured toward a private elevator. Mr. Kane is expecting you. Top floor. Of course he was. The elevator rose so smoothly I barely felt it move. When the doors opened, I stepped into a reception area that was all clean lines and expensive taste. A woman in her 40s, with sharp eyes and a sharper suit, looked up from her desk. Ms. Reese, please, follow me. She led me down a hallway lined with floor-to-ceiling windows. Through them, I could see the entire city spread out like a map. It was a power view, the kind that reminded you exactly who you were dealing with. Silas's office made the one at Apex look modest by comparison. It took up at least 3,000 square feet, with different areas for meetings, a full bar, comfortable seating areas, and a desk. That looked like it belonged in a CEO's fever dream. But what caught my attention was the art. Real art. Museum quality. A Rothko on one wall, what looked like an original Basquiat on another. Sculptures that I recognized from auction catalogs. This wasn't decoration. This was a serious collection. You like it? I turned to find Silas emerging from a side door. He wore all black again. Tailored slacks, a fitted black shirt with the sleeves rolled up revealing forearms marked with ink. The tattoos surprised me. They were subtle, elegant, some kind of geometric pattern that wound around his arms. This is an original Rothko, I said, moving closer to the painting. The private sale value on this alone, I didn't buy it for the value. He came to stand beside me, looking up at the painting. I bought it because when you look at it long enough, you stop seeing color and start seeing emotion. Pure feeling. No words needed. I turned to stare at him. That's actually a perfect interpretation of Rothko's work. You sound surprised. I didn't expect a... I caught myself. A criminal? He smiled slightly. You can say it, Harper. I know what I am. I was going to say I didn't expect someone in your position to be interested in abstract expressionism. My mother was an artist. Died when I was 12. But before that, she used to drag me to every gallery and museum in the city. He moved to the Basquiat. She taught me to see art as truth, the thing people create when they stop lying to themselves. There was something in his voice, some old pain that he'd learned to carry but never fully healed. I recognized it because I carried my own version of the same thing. What happened to her? Cancer. He said it simply, but I heard the weight behind the word. She lasted 6 months after diagnosis. Toward the end, she couldn't paint anymore. That killed her almost as much as the disease. I'm sorry. Don't be. She lived exactly how she wanted to. No compromises, no apologies. He turned back to me. She would have liked you. You don't know me well enough to say that, don't I? He moved closer, and I fought the urge to step back. You walked into Apex 2 years ago with an art history degree and enough student debt to crush most people. You could have gone home, could have taken some corporate job that would have bored you to death but paid well. Instead, you stayed. You worked the front desk of a club you'd never be able to afford to join, and you held your head up while doing it. No shame, no compromise. That's exactly the kind of person my mother respected. You really did research me. I research everyone I'm thinking of bringing into my world. He gestured toward the seating area. Sit. Let's talk about what that would actually mean. I sat on a leather couch that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Silas took the chair across from me, close enough that I was very aware of him, but far enough that I didn't feel trapped. I need someone I can trust, he said without preamble. Someone who understands aesthetics, presentation, image. My legitimate businesses, and yes, I do have legitimate businesses, need a creative director. Someone who can handle acquisitions, marketing, event planning. Someone who can make things look right. Make things look right, I repeated. That's vague. I own hotels, restaurants, a gallery in Chelsea, and I'm opening a private auction house next year. All of them need someone with vision. Someone who can ensure they reflect the right image, which is powerful, exclusive, untouchable. He leaned forward slightly. I need places where the people who run this city feel comfortable conducting business. That requires a certain atmosphere. You create that atmosphere. And the pay? $200,000 a year to start, plus bonuses based on performance, full benefits, expense account, company car. He paused. And my protection. That last part hung in the air between us. Protection. From what? From whom? The question must have shown on my face because he continued. When you work for me, people will know it. That comes with certain advantages. No one touches what's mine, Harper. No one. The possessiveness in his voice sent a shiver down my spine. And if I say no to this very generous offer, then you walk out that door and we never speak again. You keep your job at Apex, and I'll make sure Thomas knows you're off limits for any repercussions from last night. He held my gaze. But you're not going to say no. You're very confident about that. I'm confident about very few things in this life, but I'm confident about this. You're meant for something bigger than checking IDs at a desk. You know it. I know it. The only question is whether you're brave enough to take it. He was right. God help me, he was right. I'd spent years playing it safe. And where had it gotten me? A tiny apartment, student debt I'd be paying off until I was 50, and a job that was slowly killing my spirit. Here was a chance to do what I'd actually trained for, what I loved, and get paid more money than I'd ever dreamed of. All I had to do was step into the world of a man who probably had more blood on his hands than I wanted to imagine. What are the hours? A smile tugged at his lips. Flexible. I don't care when you work as long as the work gets done. And the first project? The auction house. I've purchased a building in Tribeca. It needs to be completely redesigned, inside and out. You'd have full control over the aesthetic, the layout, the entire presentation. Budget is essentially unlimited. My pulse quickened despite my better judgment. That was the kind of project that could make a career. The kind of opportunity that would never come to someone like me through conventional channels. I need to think about it. No, you don't. He stood, and I stood with him. You're going to say yes because you already know this is what you want. The only thing holding you back is fear, and you're not someone who lets fear make decisions for her. He was standing close enough that I could smell his cologne again, could see the scar through his eyebrow in detail. There was another scar along his jawline, faint but visible. This was a man who'd lived through violence and come out the other side harder, sharper, more dangerous. You're right, I heard myself say. I'll take the job. Good. He pulled out his phone, typed something. Quickly. My assistant will send you the contract within the hour. Read it carefully. Have a lawyer look at it if you want. Everything I've promised is in writing. A lawyer. Right. Like I could afford a lawyer who'd know what to look for in a contract from someone like him. Use mine. He handed me another card. Tell them I sent you. They'll review it for free. Why would you? Because I want you to feel secure in this decision. I want you to know exactly what you're agreeing to. He walked me toward the elevator. This is a partnership, Harper. I give you opportunities and protection. You give me your skills, your loyalty, and your honesty. Nothing more, nothing less. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside, then turned back to face him. What if I fail? What if I'm not as good as you think I am? Then we'll deal with that when it happens. But you won't fail. He pressed the button, and the doors began to close. Oh, and Harper? Yes? Start Monday. And where? Something more comfortable than that suit? We have a lot of work to do. The doors closed on his smile, and I was dropping back toward ground level, my head spinning. What had I just done? I spent the weekend in a haze. The contract arrived exactly when he'd promised, and I took it to the lawyer whose number he'd given me. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an air of competence that made me trust her immediately. She reviewed the contract for 2 hours while I sat in her conference room drinking coffee and trying not to panic. Finally, she set it down and looked at me over her reading glasses. This is the most generous employment contract I've seen in my 30 years of practicing law, she said. There are no hidden clauses, no traps, nothing predatory. It's exactly what he promised you. 200,000 base salary, performance bonuses, full benefits, and a severance package that would pay out 6 months if either party terminates the agreement. So, it's legitimate? As legitimate as anything involving Silas Kane can be. She folded her hands on the desk. But I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Do you know what you're getting into? I'm not sure anyone ever really knows that when they start a new job. This isn't a normal job, Harper. Silas Kane is not a normal employer. I've represented some of his legitimate business interests before. He's fair, he's honest in his own way, and he takes care of the people who work for him. But he's also incredibly dangerous. The kind of dangerous that gets people killed. He said he'd protect me. He will, with everything he has. But that protection comes with a price. When you work for him, you become part of his world. You see things, you know things, and there's no unseeing or unknowing them. She pushed the contract across the desk to me. Sign this if you want to. It's a good opportunity. But understand that once you do, you can't go back to your old life. Not really. I picked up the pen she offered. My hand was steady as I signed my name on the bottom line. I think maybe I was never meant for that old life anyway. She smiled sadly. Then welcome to the shadows, Harper. Try not to lose yourself in them. Monday morning, I showed up at the Tribeca building at 9 a.m. sharp. Silas was already there, dressed in black jeans and a black Henley, looking more like he had the night I'd met him than the polished businessman from his office. Ready to see what you'll be working with? The building was a disaster. Absolutely gutted, full of construction debris and exposed wiring. But the bones were good, high ceilings, original crown molding, beautiful natural light pouring through tall windows. "It's perfect," I breathed. "I knew you'd see it." He handed me a hard hat. "Tell me what you envision." For the next 3 hours, we walked through the space while I talked. I described gallery areas that would feel intimate despite the large space, a viewing room for private sales, an event space that could transform from elegant to edgy depending on the occasion. I gestured and pointed and probably looked half crazy, but Silas just listened, occasionally asking questions that showed he understood exactly what I was trying to create. "The main gallery should feel like a cathedral," I said, standing in what would become the central room. "High ceilings, but warm. Powerful, but inviting. People should walk in here and immediately feel like they're somewhere important. Like Apex." "No." I turned to face him. "Apex is about exclusion, about keeping people out. This should be about invitation, about making people feel chosen." "Chosen." He smiled. "I like that. The people who come here should feel like they've been selected for something special. Not because they have money, anyone can have money, but because they have taste, vision, an appreciation for beauty. You're not just designing a space, you're designing an experience." Exactly. I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. This was what I was meant to do. This was what I'd studied for, dreamed of, and thought I'd never get the chance to actually create. "When can you start?" "I already have." I pulled out my phone, showing him the notes I'd been taking, sketches I'd started. "I'll need to hire a team. Contractors, designers, someone who specializes in lighting, and I'll need access to your art collection to understand what pieces would work in here." "Whatever you need." He moved closer, looking at my sketches. "You have vision, Harper. More than I expected." "Is that a compliment?" "It's a fact." He was close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. "I knew you were talented, but this is something else. You don't just see what is, you see what could be. Isn't that what design is? Possibility made real." "Yes?" His voice had gone lower, rougher, and I'm very interested in possibilities. The air between us had changed, charged with something electric. I should have stepped back, should have maintained professional distance, but I didn't move. "Silas! Mr. Kane!" A voice echoed through the empty building. We both turned to see a man in an expensive suit entering through the main door. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with cold eyes that assessed me in a single glance. "We need to talk." Volkov's people were spotted in the warehouse district. Silas's entire demeanor changed. The warmth vanished, replaced by something hard and dangerous. "When?" "Last night. Marcus has eyes on them now. Tell him to watch, but don't engage." Silas pulled out his phone. "I'll deal with Volkov myself." The man nodded, then looked at me again. "Should I?" "Harper works for me now. She's cleared for basic operations." Silas's voice was casual, but there was steel underneath. "Treat her accordingly." "Understood." The man's expression softened slightly. "Welcome to the organization, Ms. Reese." And just like that, I'd crossed over. I was no longer just an employee of his legitimate businesses. I was part of his world. After the man left, Silas turned back to me. "That was Marcus, my head of security." "The same Marcus from Apex?" "Different Marcus. I have several." He pocketed his phone. "You'll meet the important ones soon enough. But first, I need to take care of something. Can you work on preliminary designs today? I'll have my assistant send you information about contractors we use." "Of course, but..." "Silas." "Yes?" "Who's Volkov?" His expression went dark. "Someone who doesn't understand boundaries. Don't worry about him. That's my problem, not yours." But I was worried, because I'd just heard the way Marcus had said Volkov's name, with the kind of wariness that suggested real danger. And I'd seen the way Silas's whole body had tensed, his hand instinctively moving to his hip where I now realized he probably kept a gun. This was the reality of my new life. Beautiful buildings and unlimited budgets, yes, but also men named Volkov who meant trouble, security teams, and an employer who carried weapons as naturally as he wore black. I'd signed up for this. Now I just had to figure out how to survive it. Silas left, and I spent the rest of the day measuring rooms, taking photographs, and starting to piece together a vision for the space. A woman appeared around noon, his assistant presumably, with a laptop, a company credit card in my name, and contact information for what felt like half the city. "Mr. Kane said you have full autonomy on this project," she told me. Her name was Elena, and she had the kind of efficiency that suggested she'd been working for Silas for years. "Whatever you need, just let me know. My job is to make your job easier." "Thank you. I appreciate that. One piece of advice?" She lowered her voice. "Mr. Kane doesn't give trust easily. The fact that he's given you this level of freedom means something. Don't take it lightly." "I won't." She studied me for a moment, then smiled. "Good. I think you'll do well here, Harper. Just remember, in this world, loyalty matters more than anything else. More than talent, more than results. Stay loyal, and you'll always have a place." After she left, I stood in the empty building, looking around at the space that would become my masterpiece. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows, painting everything gold. This was my chance. My moment to prove I was more than just a girl with a degree and no opportunities. But Elena's words echoed in my mind. Loyalty. In Silas's world, that word meant something different than it did in mine. It meant keeping secrets, turning blind eyes, accepting things I might not want to accept. Could I do that? Could I become the person this job would require me to be? I didn't have an answer yet, but I was going to find out. Thank you so much for staying with us. If you're still here, comment the word shadow, so I know you've made it to this point of the story. The next few weeks blurred together in a whirlwind of activity. I hired a team of contractors, interviewed designers, and spent countless hours poring over fabric swatches and paint samples. The auction house began to take shape, no longer just a gutted building, but something beautiful emerging from the bones. Silas checked in regularly, always at unexpected times. He'd appear in the middle of the afternoon or late at night when I was working alone, and we'd walk through the space together while, I explained my choices. He listened to everything, asked intelligent questions, and never once questioned my decisions. "You trust me completely with this," I said one evening. We were standing in what would become the main gallery, watching contractors install the lighting system I'd designed. "I do." "Why?" "You barely know me." "I know enough." He was leaning against a pillar, arms crossed, watching the work with those dark eyes. "You care about this building the way I need people to care about my businesses, like it matters, like it's personal." "It is personal. This is the biggest opportunity I've ever had. It's more than that. You see this place the way my mother used to see blank canvases, full of possibility." He pushed off the pillar, coming to stand beside me. "That's rare, Harper. Most people just see work. You see art." We stood there in comfortable silence, watching the lights come on one by one. The effect was exactly what I'd envisioned. Warm but dramatic. Inviting but powerful. "It's perfect," he said quietly. "It's not done yet. It will be." He turned to look at me. "You're exceeding every expectation I had." "Good. I'd hate to disappoint the man who owns half the city." He smiled. "Is that what they're saying? Half? Is it inaccurate?" "Depends on how you count." His phone buzzed and he glanced at it, his expression darkening. "I need to go. Emergency." "Everything okay?" "It will be." He headed for the door, then paused. "Harper, lock up when you leave. And don't work too late. The neighborhood isn't safe after midnight." "I'll be fine." That wasn't a suggestion. His voice had gone hard. "Be out of here by 11. That's an order." Before I could respond, he was gone, leaving me alone with the contractors and a strange flutter in my chest. He'd given me orders before, professional ones about the project. But this was different. This was personal. Protective. I left at 10:30, not wanting to test his patience. The streets were quiet. As I walked to where I'd parked my car, or rather, the car his company had given me, a sleek black sedan that was worth more than everything I'd ever owned combined. As I unlocked it, I noticed a black SUV parked across the street. The windows were tinted, but I could see someone sitting in the driver's seat, watching. My pulse quickened. I got into my car quickly, locked the doors, and drove away. The SUV didn't follow. When I got home, there was a text waiting from an unknown number. You made it home safe. Good. Sleep well. S. He'd had someone watching me, protecting me. The realization should have creeped me out, should have made me angry. Instead, I felt something else. Something warm and dangerous spreading through my chest. I was falling for him. For Silas Kane, criminal kingpin, dangerous man, someone I had no business developing feelings for. But knowing that didn't change the fact that every time he walked into a room, my heart raced. Every time he stood close to me, I found it hard to breathe. Every time he looked at me with those dark eyes, I felt like he could see straight through every defense I'd ever built. This was dangerous. This was stupid. This was exactly the kind of thing that could destroy me. And I couldn't seem to stop. The auction house was nearly complete when everything changed. I was there late one Thursday night, past the 11 o'clock deadline Silas had set, but I'd texted him for permission, and he'd agreed as long as I kept security posted. Outside, I was in the main gallery, adjusting the placement of a sculpture, when I heard voices, angry voices, coming from the street entrance. I moved quietly to the doorway, staying in the shadows. Two men I'd never seen before were pushing past the security guard Silas had stationed outside. They were rough-looking, wearing leather jackets, and one of them had a gun visible in his waistband. "We need to talk to Kane," one of them said. His accent was thick, Russian maybe. "Tell him Volkov wants his answer. Mr. Kane isn't here." The security guard, James, a former Marine who'd been nothing but professional, kept his hand near his own weapon. "You need to leave. We leave when we get answer." The second man pulled out his gun, not pointing it but making it visible. "You tell Kane. Warehouse district belongs to Volkov now. He has 24 hours to accept this or we take it." My blood went cold. This was the Volkov that Marcus had mentioned weeks ago. This was the threat Silas had. Said was his problem, not mine. But now they were here, at my building, making threats. "I'll pass along the message," James said calmly. "Now leave before this becomes a problem." The first man laughed. "Problem is already here, friend. Problem is your boss thinks he still runs this city. Times are changing." They left, but the threat hung in the air like smoke. James immediately pulled out his phone, presumably calling Silas. I stepped out of the shadows. "How much of that did you hear?" James asked. "All of it." My hands were shaking. "What does this mean?" "It means you need to go home. Now." He was already moving, checking the locks on all the doors. "I'll wait here until Mr. Kane arrives." "James, Harper, I like you. You're good people, but this is way above your pay grade. Go home, lock your doors, and don't answer for anyone except Mr. Kane or someone you recognize from his team." I wanted to argue, but the look in his eyes stopped me. This was serious. This was the reality of Silas's world, the part I'd been insulated from until now. I drove home faster than I should have, checking my mirrors constantly. The black SUV that usually followed me at a discreet distance was right behind me tonight, close enough that I could see the driver clearly. Protective detail ramped up. I'd just walked into my apartment when my phone rang. "Silas, are you home?" No greeting, just the question. "Yes, just walked in." "Good. Lock your door. Don't open it for anyone." I could hear voices in the background, tense conversations. "I'm sending someone to stay outside your building tonight." "Silas, what's going on?" "Those men are making a mistake." His voice was cold, deadly. "Don't worry about them. Worry about staying safe. You can't just tell me not to worry. They came to the auction house. They threatened me, not you. There's a difference." He paused. "But you're right. You deserve to know what's happening. I'll come by tomorrow. We'll talk." "Okay. Harper?" His voice softened slightly. "You did good tonight. Staying calm, not engaging with them. That was smart. I was terrified. Fear keeps you alive. It's okay to be scared." Another pause. "Get some sleep. I'll see you tomorrow." He hung up before I could respond. I stood in my apartment, door locked, curtains drawn, and wondered what I'd gotten myself into. Silas arrived at noon the next day. I'd called in sick to my shift at Apex, though technically I still had that job. I hadn't worked there since starting with Silas. He let himself into my apartment building using a key I didn't remember giving him, then knocked on my door. "It's me," he called out. I checked the peephole anyway, then let him in. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept, but he was dressed in his usual black. Today it was slacks and a fitted t-shirt that showed off the tattoos on his arms. "Coffee?" I offered. "Please." I made us both coffee while he stood by my window, looking out at the street. Below. When I handed him his cup, he took it but didn't drink, just held it like he needed something to do with his hands. "The men who came last night work for Dmitry Volkov," he said without preamble. "He runs the Russian syndicate on the east side. We've had an understanding for years. He stays in his territory, I stay in mine. Recently, he's been pushing those boundaries. The warehouse district, among other things. He set the coffee down untouched. He wants to expand, build his empire. And he's decided that means taking pieces of mine. Can he do that? He can try." Silas's smile was cold. "But I didn't build what I have by letting people take from me. So what happens now? Now I remind him why people don't challenge me." He turned away from the window, facing me fully. "But that's not what I came here to talk about." "It's not?" "No." He moved closer, and my breath caught. "I came to talk about you. About whether you want to continue working for me knowing this is what my life looks like. Threats, violence, danger, men with guns showing up at your workplace. I'm not a child, Silas. I knew what you were when I took this job. Knowing and experiencing are different things. Last night was real. Those men were real. The threat was real." He was close enough now that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. "I can't guarantee your safety if you stay in my world. I can try. I can provide protection. But there are no guarantees. People close to me become targets. So you're telling me to quit? I'm telling you that you have a choice. You can walk away right now. I'll pay out your contract in full, give you a reference that will get you any job you want. You can go back to your safe, normal life." His hand came up, fingers brushing along my jawline. "Or you can stay. But if you stay, you need to understand. There's no going back. You'll be mine to protect, mine to defend. And I don't let go of what's mine." The possessiveness in his voice should have scared me, should have sent me running. Instead, it ignited something deep in my core. "I'm not yours," I whispered. "Aren't you?" His thumb traced my lower lip. "You've been mine since the moment you told me I looked broke. Since you stood your ground and refused to be intimidated. Since you looked at that gutted building and saw possibility instead of problems. That's not... Tell me you don't feel it." His other hand came up, framing my face. "Tell me you don't think about me the way I think about you. Tell me when I walk into a room, your heart doesn't race. Tell me, Harper, and I'll believe you. I'll let you go right now." I couldn't tell him that, because it would be a lie. "This is insane," I breathed. "You're my boss. You're a criminal. This is every kind of wrong." "I know." He leaned closer, his lips hovering just above mine. "So tell me to stop." I should have. Every logical, reasonable part of my brain screamed at me to push him away, to choose safety, to run as far and fast as I could from this dangerous man and his dangerous world. Instead, I closed the distance between us and kissed him. The kiss was electric, consuming, nothing like anything I'd experienced before. His hands tightened on my face, pulling me closer, and I grabbed his shirt, needing something to anchor me. He kissed like he did everything else, with intensity and focus and an edge of barely controlled danger that made my knees weak. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. "Stay," he said quietly. "Stay in my world. Let me keep you safe. Let me..." He stopped, like the words were too much even for him. "Let you what?" "Let me have this. Have you. Even though I shouldn't. Even though it's selfish and dangerous and probably the worst decision either of us could make." I should have said no. Should have been smart, practical, safe. Okay, I whispered instead. I'll stay. His kiss this time was softer, sweeter, tinged with something that felt almost like relief. When he pulled back, he smiled. A real smile, not the dangerous one he showed the world, but something genuine and almost vulnerable. You're sure? Probably not, but I'm doing it anyway. That's my girl. He kissed me once more, brief and gentle. Now, about Volkov. I don't want to think about Volkov right now. Harper, you came here to give me a choice. I made it. I'm staying. But right now, in this moment, I don't want to think about threats or danger or any of it. I trailed off, not sure how to finish that sentence. What do you want? His voice had gone low, rough with promise. Whatever this is between us. He studied my face for a long moment, then pulled out his phone and made a call. Clear my schedule for the rest of the day. I don't care. Handle it. No interruptions unless someone's dying. He hung up and tossed the phone onto my couch, then turned back to me with that dangerous smile. You have me for the rest of the day. What do you want to do with me? We spent the afternoon talking. Really talking. He told me about growing up in this city, about his father who'd built an empire, and his brother who'd been killed trying to take it over, about the choices he'd made, the lines he'd crossed, the weight of being responsible for hundreds of people who depended on him for their livelihoods. I told him about my parents who'd wanted me to be a doctor or lawyer, about the fights when I'd chosen art instead, about the crushing weight of student debt and failed dreams, about feeling like I'd disappointed everyone, including myself. You didn't fail, he said. We were sitting on my couch, my legs draped over his lap, his hand absently tracing patterns on my ankle. The system failed you. Society tells kids to follow their dreams, then makes it impossible to actually do it unless you're independently wealthy. That's not your failure, Harper. That's theirs. Is that why you do what you do? Because the system's broken? Partially. Also because I'm good at it. He smiled slightly. I'm not going to pretend I'm some kind of Robin Hood figure. I do what I do because it's profitable and because I'm good at controlling things. But yes, part of it is knowing that the legitimate world is just as corrupt as mine. They just hide it better. Do you ever want out? Want something different? Sometimes. Late at night when I can't sleep, I think about what it would be like to walk away. To just be normal. He looked at me. But then I remember that normal doesn't suit me. I tried it once when I was younger. Lasted 6 months before I was climbing the walls. What happened? I realized I'm not built for normal. I need the challenge, the risk, the control. It's who I am. His hand tightened slightly on my ankle. Does that bother you? It should, but it doesn't. I think maybe I understand it. I spent years trying to be practical, trying to make the safe choices. It made me miserable. Being with you, working for you, it's terrifying and probably stupid, but it's the first time in years I felt actually alive. He pulled me closer until I was practically in his lap. We're a mess. You know that? I'm aware. This probably won't end well. Most good things don't. He kissed me again, and this time there was something different in it. Not just desire, but something deeper. Something that felt dangerously close to emotion neither of us were ready to name. We were interrupted by his phone ringing insistently. He ignored it the first 3 times, but on the 4th, he groaned and grabbed it. This better be life or death. When? Son of a bitch. His whole body tensed. I'm on my way. He hung up and looked at me, regret clear in his eyes. I have to go. Volkov? He hit one of my warehouses. Burned it to the ground. He stood, his expression going cold and dangerous. I need to handle this. Be careful. He cupped my face, kissing me hard and fast. Stay here. Don't go to the auction house until I tell you it's clear. Promise me. I promise. I'll call you tonight. He was already moving toward the door. Lock this behind me. Security stays outside your building until this is resolved. Then he was gone, and I was alone with my racing thoughts and the taste of him still on my lips. I didn't hear from Silas for 3 days. 3 days of pacing my apartment, checking my phone obsessively, and trying not to imagine. The worst. Elena called to tell me the auction house was off limits temporarily, but that I could work remotely on designs. I tried, but I couldn't focus. On the third night, there was a knock on my door at 2 a.m. I checked the peephole and saw Silas standing there looking exhausted and dangerous. I opened the door immediately. "Are you okay? Can I come in?" I stepped aside, and he walked past me into the apartment. There was blood on his shirt. Not much, but enough to make my stomach drop. "You're hurt. It's not mine." He sat heavily on my couch. "Do you have any whiskey?" I poured him a glass with shaking hands. He drank half of it in one swallow, then set the glass down and leaned back, closing his eyes. "What happened?" "Volkov and I came to an understanding." "What kind of understanding?" "The kind where he stays in his territory and I stay in mine, and we both pretend like the last 2 weeks didn't happen." He opened his eyes, looking at me. "It's over. For now. For now. These things are never permanent. But for now, you're safe. The auction house is safe. My people are safe." He reached for me, pulling me down onto the couch beside him. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For dragging you into this. For making you worry. For showing up at your door at 2 in the morning covered in someone else's blood." I took his hand, lacing my fingers through his. "I chose this, remember? I chose you, even knowing what it meant." "You're insane?" "Probably." I leaned my head on his shoulder. "But so are you, so we match." He laughed, a tired sound. "Stay with me tonight? Just sleep. I need to know you're close, that you're safe." We fell asleep on my couch, tangled together, and when I woke up in the morning, he was still there, still holding me, still mine. The auction house opened 6 weeks later to tremendous success. Every major player in the city showed up: celebrities, politicians, business moguls, and of course, the underworld elite. I stood in the main gallery, wearing a black dress that Silas had sent over with a note that just said, "Wear this tonight," and watched my vision come to life. The space was everything I'd imagined and more. Elegant but powerful, inviting but exclusive. People moved through it like they belonged there, like this was exactly where they were meant to be. "You did it," Elena said, appearing at my elbow with a glass of champagne. "Look at this place. It's incredible." "Thank you." I scanned the room, looking for Silas. He'd been here earlier, but I'd lost track of him in the crowd. "He's on the terrace," Elena said, reading my mind. "Wanted a moment alone before the main event starts." I found him standing outside, looking out over the city lights. He'd dressed for the occasion. A black suit that probably cost more than my old car fitted perfectly to his frame. He looked every inch the king he was. "You're missing your own party," I said, coming to stand beside him. "Just taking it in." He glanced at me, and, his eyes heated. "That dress is dangerous." "You picked it." "I know. I'm rethinking that decision. It's hard to focus on business when you look like that." I laughed, leaning against the railing. "The space looks good. The space looks incredible. You exceeded every expectation I had, Harper. This is..." He gestured to the building behind us. "This is art. Real art. It's just design. It's never just anything with you." He moved closer, his hand finding the small of my back. "You take everything you touch and make it better. The auction house, my businesses." He paused. "Me. Silas, I love you." The words hung in the air between us. I stared at him, my heart hammering. "What?" "I love you," he repeated. "I probably have since the night you told me I looked broke. I definitely have since you chose to stay, even knowing the danger. But tonight, watching you in there, seeing what you created, seeing you shine." He cupped my face. "I love you, Harper. And I know that's complicated and messy and probably makes everything harder. But it's the truth. You don't have to. I'm not saying it because I have to. I'm saying it because I want you to know. Because in my world, tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Because if something happens to me, I want you to know that you mattered. That you changed everything." Tears stung my eyes. "Nothing's going to happen to you." You can't promise that. Neither can you. Neither can anyone. I grabbed his shirt, pulling him closer. But I can promise you this, I love you too. And that scares me more than anything else, but it's true. I love you, Silas Kane. Your darkness, your danger, all of it. He kissed me then, deep and slow and full of promise. When we finally broke apart, he was smiling. That real smile. The vulnerable one that he only showed me. We should get back inside, he murmured. People will talk. Let them talk. Let them know you're mine. Possessive. I learned from the best. We walked back into the auction house together, his hand firmly in mine. People noticed. People whispered. But I didn't care. This was my life now. Beautiful and dangerous. Safe and terrifying. Everything I'd never known I wanted. The first auction item went for 3 times its estimated value. By the end of the night, we'd broken records. Silas stood at the front of the room and made a speech, thanking everyone for coming. But when he mentioned me, the brilliant mind behind this space, his eyes found mine in the crowd, and I saw everything he felt written there. After the last guest left and the staff was cleaning up, Silas and I stood alone in the main gallery, surrounded by the space we'd created together. What now? I asked. Now I have about 15 other projects that need your touch. He pulled me against him. But more importantly, now we see where this goes. You and me. Against the world, if necessary. That's dramatic. I'm a dramatic person. He kissed my forehead. But I mean it. I want this, Harper. I want you. Not just as my employee or my designer. I want you in my life. In my home. In my bed. In every possible way. That's a lot of pressure. I know. And if you need time, I don't. I cut him off. I don't need time. I know what I want. I want you. All of you. The darkness and the light. The danger and the safety. I want this life we're building. It won't be easy. Nothing worth having ever is. He laughed, pulling me closer. How did I get so lucky? You didn't. I told you that you looked broke, remember? That's not luck. That's divine intervention. Is that what we're calling it? Unless you have a better explanation for why the most powerful man in the city fell for a struggling artist with student debt and bad judgment. You have excellent judgment. You chose me. That literally proves my point about bad judgment. We were both laughing now, and it felt perfect. Normal. Like despite everything, despite the danger and the violence and the complicated reality of our lives, we'd found something real, something worth fighting for. 6 months later, I moved into Silas's penthouse. It was a ridiculous space, 10,000 square feet overlooking the entire city, with more rooms than anyone could possibly need. But it felt right. Felt like home in a way my tiny apartment never had. I kept my independence, kept my job, kept my identity, but I shared his life in every other way. I met his inner circle, not just the business associates, but the people he trusted. His found family. Marcus, who turned out to have a wicked sense of humor. Elena, who became one of my closest friends. James, who taught me self-defense, just in case. I learned the rules of his world, when to speak and when to stay silent, how to read a room, how to spot danger, how to handle myself at events where half the guests were criminals and the other half were politicians, though often there wasn't much difference. And I learned him. Learned that, under all the danger and darkness, was a man who loved fiercely and protected what was his with everything he had, who still visited his mother's grave every Sunday, who donated anonymously to art programs in underfunded schools, who held me while I worked late into the night and never complained about the mess I made when I was deep in a creative project. We fought sometimes. Explosive arguments about his risks, about my safety, about the constant tension of living in his world. But we always came back to each other, always chose each other. There were still threats, still moments of danger when Volkov or someone else tested boundaries, but Silas handled them, and I learned to trust that he would keep me safe while still respecting that I wasn't helpless. I opened 2 more auction houses, consulted on a dozen of his properties, and built a reputation as one of the best designers in the city. My work was my own. My success was my own. But having Silas's support and resources behind me made everything possible. 1 year to the day after I'd told him he looked broke, we stood on the terrace of his penthouse, the city spread out below us like a carpet of stars. He handed me a glass of champagne, and I noticed his hand was shaking slightly. "You okay?" I asked. "Harper." He set his glass down, then took mine and set it aside too. "When you walked into Apex that night, you changed everything. You looked at me and saw a man who looked broke. You had no idea who I was, what I could do to you, and you still stood your ground, still told me the truth. Where is this going?" "Everywhere. Nowhere. I don't know." He laughed nervously. Nervous, which I'd never seen him be. "I'm not good at this. At feelings. At saying things that matter. Silas." He dropped to one knee, and my heart stopped. "But I'm good at knowing what I want, and I want you. Forever. In every way. I want to wake up with you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want to build empires with you and come home. To you. I want everything, Harper. If you'll have me." He pulled out a box, opening it to reveal a ring that was somehow both beautiful and understated. A black diamond, because of course it was, surrounded by smaller stones that caught the light like stars. "Marry me," he said simply. "Choose me. Choose this life. Choose us." I should have thought about it. Should have considered all the implications, all the dangers, all the ways this could go wrong. But I'd stopped playing it safe the night I'd agreed to work for him. The night I'd chosen danger over security. The night I'd fallen in love with the most dangerous man in the city. "Yes," I said, pulling him to his feet. "Yes, I'll marry you. I'll choose you. Every day, for the rest of my life." He slid the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly. Just like us. Unlikely and complicated and absolutely right. "I love you," he said, kissing me deep and slow. "My queen." "I love you too," I whispered against his lips. "My king." We stood, there on the terrace, the city lights below us, the stars above us, and I realized something. I'd come to this city looking for success, for validation, for proof that my dreams weren't stupid. I'd found all of that, but I'd found something more important too. I'd found home. Not a place, but a person. Someone who saw me, really saw me, and loved what he found. Someone who challenged me and protected me and gave me the freedom to be exactly who I was meant to be. I'd walked into Apex one random Tuesday night and insulted the most powerful man in the city. He could have destroyed me, could have had me fired, blacklisted, worse. Instead, he'd seen something in me that I hadn't even seen in myself. Potential, strength, the courage to stand my ground even when I was terrified. And in return, I'd seen past his power and danger to the man underneath, the one who loved art because his mother had, the one who protected his people fiercely, the one who'd been alone in his darkness until I'd chosen to step into it with him. "What are you thinking?" Silas asked, his arms around me, my back pressed against his chest as we looked out at our city. "I'm thinking that I was wrong that night." "About what?" "You don't look broke." I turned in his arms to face him. "You never did. You look like a king, and somehow, impossibly, you're mine." "And you're mine," he said. "My queen, my love, my Harper. Forever?" "Forever." We sealed the promise with a kiss, and I knew that whatever came next, whatever dangers or challenges or complications, we'd face it together. King and queen of our own little empire, built on trust and danger and a love that was probably crazy, but was absolutely real. I'd spent years playing it safe, and it had gotten me nowhere. One night of bad judgment, one moment of telling the truth without fear, had given me everything, had given me him, had given me a life I never could have imagined. So maybe bad judgment wasn't so bad after all. Maybe sometimes the best decisions were the ones that looked absolutely insane from the outside. Maybe love was always a little bit dangerous, a little bit reckless, a little bit like standing on the edge of a cliff and choosing to jump anyway. And maybe, just maybe, the man who looked broke was actually the richest man I'd ever met. Not in money or power, but in the things that actually mattered. Love, loyalty, the courage to be vulnerable with someone who could destroy you but chose to cherish you instead. I'd insulted the king of the city, and he'd made me his queen. It was the best mistake I'd ever made.